They're going to be like, oh,
Who
yeah.
the hell is that?
I didn't even notice. Anne was in the chat telling them, we're fashionably late. We're over here just rambling.
I know. She's so good about that shit.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Everybody that's here. I guess I could scroll up some. Say hello to my beautiful cohorts tonight. You've got Amethyst and Chapped Ass on the bottom. If this is your first time in seeing them or being in a live that they've been in, these are two wonderful islanders that have been around for a while, and you will get to learn more about them tonight. This will be kind of an open format, you guys. Sorry, I'm outside, so let me make sure the birds don't get me too bad. You guys can feel free to ask any questions that you want to. Just keep it respectful, please, like we normally do. And then we're just kind of going to have an open discussion about, these are the two of the brave women who have shared their stories with us and have been so graceful to speak for victims. Uh-oh, hold on. Chapped is something over here.
I fell down. I'm sorry.
Oh, mind us.
My phone is kind of balanced here, and it's anyway. I'm cool like that. I fall down sometimes.
You're okay. Tell me if the volume is okay. I'm trying to adjust the volume a little bit. Do we have background for anybody? I think we're good.
I think we're good.
Yeah, you'll have to tell me. I have a loud voice, so you're just going to have to tell me if I'm getting too loud.
No, you're good. You're totally good. As long as, I don't know if we have background noise or not.
Oh, you know what? I kind of hear a little bit.
Do you? Okay, it's me then, because I've got the tablet on so I could see the chat.
Oh,
the volume's
just mute it.
Yeah, the volume's all the way down. I just turned it off.
Thank you, here. Everybody good now? There's some background noise still.
Okay, it's not me anymore.
Let me see.
I'm buffering though.
Oh, that's better. What just happened?
Maybe there's a little delay, so it might have taken a second when I turned off the tablet.
Is it my side? Hold on, you guys. I'm trying to figure out. I think we're good. Can everybody, you guys can hear us better now? Am, will you say something?
Yeah, I'm good.
Chapped?
I'm good.
Okay, I think we're good. Okay, thank you. I think we're good. Okay, where do you guys want to start? Do you guys want to talk about current event? Do you guys want to give an update on where we're at, what's happening next week with your situations?
Go ahead, Am.
Let's see here. On the 17th, we have a parole review, and it is it's not a parole hearing. It is a parole review where the board is going to review the decision of the parole board to release James Edward Short, and we should have their decision actually by the end of the day on the 17th, if not early morning on the 18th. So it's going to go really quick. Anyone who wants to speak has 2 minutes to speak. Don't have to be a resident of California or anything. It's open to the public completely. I was asked if I could live stream it. Unfortunately, in California, I don't think I can. They don't want any recording devices or anything like that. So, but anybody is more than welcome to use the link that it is in the letter that I posted on the community post. So and Nonsense has it up as well. So anybody can join. You don't have to speak, but that's the best way if you want to witness what's happening and see the process.
And then Chap, yours is the 16th.
Yeah, mine's the 16th. It is not an open hearing. It is me and the other victim in my case that has come forward. Hers happened to her. She was 7 years old, and Steele was 17. And then he was 39 when it happened to me. So we know there's other victims in between. No one's come forward as of yet. The big thing is because he is from the reservation, his mom and father hold very esteemed positions within the reservation. And I believe that most of his victims probably are under that reign and I have little hope. I still hold out hope that they will feel empowered to come forward at some point, but as of yet, they have not. So, but her and I will be there. She's been with me the last 3 years. Prior to that, I was doing it by myself every 8 months for the almost 3 years prior. And so this is starting, this will actually be our 6th year doing it every 8 months. And so, yeah, that's, I usually, we're always told in the hearing that it can be up to 7 to 10 days, business days, before we get an answer. However, I've been very fortunate that they've always given us an answer by 5:30, 6 p.m., the end of that day. So I'm hopeful that we'll have that continuing and that I will hopefully hear the words that he's been denied by 5:30 or 6 p.m. that day. Now that's Central Standard Time. So that's what I know. And then Wednesday, I have taken off work and will be there to support Anne.
Oh, thank
Amazing.
you.
You're so amazing. Thank you for everything you've done. It's
The least I can do.
the
It's the very
timing.
least I can do.
The timing of all of this coming together was like the perfect storm. I mean, nothing. Let me preface that by saying nothing in this situation is good for either one of these situations. It's unfortunate that any of this has to even happen. Like, those crimes were horrific and nobody deserved what happened. But the connection the two of you have been able to make, and I just know the support that you have offered to Am, and even what you have helped me learn through the process has been incredible, because unfortunately you've been dealing with this for so long and you're just a wealth of knowledge and really a strong, powerful voice for victims. And you are so appreciated. Am too. I mean, it just kind of came together at the perfect timing when I think both of us were kind of feeling like, where do we go from here? And you were like, you kind of kept us in focus a little bit. That was great.
Very much so. Mm-hmm.
No, I appreciate that. I went public right away. I was from a small town, and there was a lot of whispering around in the background, a lot of shit I didn't want to deal with. And
Right.
so I went public. I outed myself. I went public to put those rumors to rest. And then I went on a campaign trail of talking to high schools all around the states, into Minnesota, South Dakota, Iowa, and to Nebraska. And basically explaining that, rape can come in many different forms, and whatever you're experiencing, I'm a safe outlet. And I still have those letters today, which is crazy considering I've moved enough. And most of them are still legible. So it's, it's something that I think I've been a fighter since I was born, and unfortunately have seen my share of nasty situations that I've had to get through. And finding a trail of hope for me meant finding what I can do to help others in the same situation.
Do you want to tell them what you have done to help others in this situation with that program and stuff? I think that's so incredible to highlight.
Well, you give me way too much credit on that, honestly.
No, it's still amazing.
I got with another survivor, almost off the bat, right after I went public. She reached out to me and said, you're just the person I need to help push my train, and this is what I'm advocating for. And what she was advocating for was getting the governor and the Department of Justice as a whole to put into place a system where victims could go to find financial help when things like this happened to them, because there was no such thing back then. And along with that, because she had already started her process with Parole of her perpetrator, we also pushed for Savin, and Savin is now a major staple for every victim of a major crime.
Now tell me again, I didn't give you enough credit.
You didn't. She all I did was carry the ball behind her. I carried the ball behind her. She was the instigator, and but she had done a hell of a lot of work before I showed up on the scene.
But that's still you. I mean, that is the courage and the bravery just to connect with another and to really like be focused. I don't give you enough credit for what the bravery the both of you have shown. Like, it is so hard. And you both know, like, I don't talk about my stuff on, you guys know, right. But it's watching the strength that the two of you have had to overcome this. And didn't mean to cut you off, but
no, you're good.
You don't take enough credit, because I think the two of you, especially, like, these are horrific situations and unfortunately happen so often. And programs like that save lives. They really do, because when somebody is assaulted in any way, shape, or form, to have to think about going to work right away, or to, not have a financial support for security systems or anything, that's huge. It's major in this situation. So I will continue to give you a lot of credit because it's due.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I lost my apartment. I lost my job. My apartment was within 5 blocks of where he ended up getting into my vehicle. My work was less than a quarter of a mile. And at the time, the car that I had just gotten, and of course, it was taken as evidence. And so I was going to have to walk to work, and I couldn't do it. And so it was a big deal for me to get involved and to be a part of that movement. But there is now a victims witness fund available to people in South Dakota. It's been there for 28 years, I think, 27 or 28. I actually had to use it finally after 32 years. I had to finally use it, and they were expedient. Within a week, I had everything they promised me for my own safety. And it's a godsend to anybody who's been in that position, for sure. And Savin notifies me 3 different ways anytime that sucker leaves for a doctor's appointment, outside of the facility, whether he's strapped to a gurney 16 different places or not. They let me know, and I'm notified 3 different ways every time. And so now, like, the parole hearings are even, they notify you 3 different ways every time, and a month ahead. So Savin is
Saving lives. Saving
Yeah.
lives.
Absolutely.
It really is.
Absolutely.
Would you mind giving a little bit of a background on when he was furloughed to go to the funeral so people understand the gravity of the situation? We've only done one go around with you, and I kind of want to just hi, by the way, hi everybody, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining the conversation, and this being important to the rest of you too. Like, that says a lot. It is my background.
So he claimed that his mother had passed away and needed to go to this funeral. The tribe actually did up a whole mock fake crap for him, submitted it to the DOJ. The DOJ, the warden at the time, did agree to allow him to go, and they had to transport him from Sioux Falls out to Rapid City. When they were about 2/3 of the way there, unfortunately, they sent 2 rookie cops, and he had to go to the bathroom, apparently. Yes, he was handcuffed to his stomach with a belt, and he did have shackles on. However, I found out later this was not his first escape, but it was the most well-advertised one. He slipped out a bathroom window, and someone was waiting to pick him up. And while he was on the run, he would call into the Argus leader and radio stations and not only threaten my life, but threaten my family. He at times would literally say that he knew where I was. And at one point actually gave my address out. He, at the time, I did not know this, but he was working with his attorney's paralegal. His attorney's paralegal later became his wife, and she continues to dig into my life now. But while he was on the run, I did pack up away from the Sioux Falls area, and I used my middle name and my stepfather's last name as my name the entire time he was gone. It was nearly 4 years that he was out on the run. It was like 3 years and 7 months or some damn thing. I moved several times. I held several different jobs because at times I would panic and just not feel safe anymore. He would call in and I would get afraid again and I'd bail. I didn't have a lot of support from my family. When I went public, my family was not excited. Let's just put it that way. The shame and embarrassment is what they cling to. Unfortunately, that did change for a couple years while he was on the run. They did try to help me. They were very good about helping me for a couple years, and then it was more of a burden and affected them to the point that they didn't want to deal with it anymore. It was just too much. So I was back on my own. I had a couple of friends who helped me along the way, and I was grateful for that. When they did find him, well, let's not quite get there. About 3 months before he was caught, America's Most Wanted reached out to me. I have a very good friend there named Ben Sessoms. He no longer works for them, and obviously they have disbanded at this point, but he does still keep in touch with me. I'm still in touch with the original person who did my story, which was Mike Troutman. at the Artist Leader. He's no longer there. I'm not doxing him, I promise. He is a reporter somewhere else now and semi-retired. I still have conversations with him, but he is the one who called me 3 days before America's Most Wanted was scheduled to be at my doorstep to do the story. Mike Troutman called me and said, "Did you hear?" I said, "Did I hear what?" And he said, "They got him. They're flying him back tomorrow. They got him in Denver. He's working at a meatpacking plant." I said, "No." He said, "Yeah, Autumn, we got him." Well, during that time, on a technicality, he had gotten a new trial. So the minute he got back and was back in prison, I had to drive from where I was all the way back and do another trial and do it again. And they had a change of venue. And so you will find some records of my case out of Cottington County, South Dakota, which is Watertown area.
Do you want to tell them the name of your offender so they can?
Philip Don Steele. He also goes by Yellowbird as a last name. Ever since he has been married to the paralegal that used to be married to his attorney.
Y'all, listen up for a moment. She's going to share something here that is like, and I'm going to go off camera just to smoke, but listen to this part.
She's been digging into my background. She works for a medical facility that I doctor at, conveniently enough. Not in the same state even, but she got into my medical records and she has been poking at me outside of the parole hearings. And then during the parole hearings, they try to rehash gruesome details of why that couldn't have been possible. Even though I had the marks to prove it, the scars to prove it, she continues to be a thorn in my butt. But she said something at the last parole hearing that indicated she knew something about me medically that hadn't happened until about 15, 16 years ago. So that was what tipped me off. And I called the medical facility and talked to their privacy officer, and they went after her. So, but unfortunately, that meant that she had access to my phone number, my home address, where I worked, my insurance information, my emergency contact, and their phone number and home address, who happens to be my child. He's an adult, but it doesn't change the fact that this happened. And that's why I dipped into the victims witness funds after all these years, is they put a full security system on my home and allowed me payments going forward for a few years or until I move or whatever. But she continues to poke. So, yeah, that threw me over the edge for about a week. Every time I saw a South Dakota plate where I live, because I do not live in South Dakota anymore, by the way, I would hide in my upstairs closet with all of my cats and cry and just wait to hear the alarm go off. I've stopped doing that, which is really good. So, but yeah, it definitely threw me for a loop.
Well, yeah, in the fact that, I mean, just the fact that this is why it's so important, I think, people, for these conversations to happen and people to talk about their stories, because the re-victimization isn't just from the offenders to the victims, parole hearings every 8 months. He got married to his defense attorney's ex-wife while he was incarcerated. He took off on the run, used media and radio stations to re-victimize the victims. Then she accessed her private medical records and re-victimized the victim. Like the re-victimization on top of, thank God social media wasn't around as big back then for either of your cases. That's all I got to say.
Absolutely, because I will tell you, if any of those ding-dongs showed up at my house, I wouldn't have thought twice. It would have been over, because I was already in touch with media. I was very open about it. I did a 2-hour special with KSFY years ago. I think that was in 93. Good luck getting the archives on it, because I've tried. But if one of you managed to do it, I want a copy. But I literally, every time a parole hearing came up, to begin with, those first few years that he had parole hearings, I literally had people outside cruising down the block in media cars. And that's when I was like, all right, that's it. I gotta move. I gotta find somewhere quiet where I'm not findable. And I started putting utilities in someone else's name and all that kind of crap, because I was not doing that again. I don't regret going public. I really don't. I honestly feel like it was a huge part of my own healing. And it gave me a lot of insight into what I was feeling and where the shame and anger and all of that comes from, and why we carry it so deep, and why it affects everything we do going forward in life. I'm still messed up from this. I have not been in a loving relationship for 21 years. And I don't expect to ever get into another relationship. And it's not that I'm afraid of men. I like men. I work with men. I am around men all the time. It's not a fear factor. It's that I overthink everything now. I can't stop myself. Once I'm thinking about, well, why didn't they do this, or why did they say that, or oh my gosh, did they find my old stuff online through newspaper.com? I mean, I don't know what it is, but I do, but we're not going to go there right now. I'm good by myself. I'm good. I have cats. I foster cats for soldiers overseas. I have a great job. A lot of things in my life came together just fine, but my ability, capability, desire to find a loving relationship with a man it's still in the process. I'm still working on it.
Can I ask you a question? And this is for both of you, because I think people will relate to this too. You both were pretty young when these incidents happened, right at the stage between going from a teen to adulthood. I'm assuming that really played an impact on how you transitioned and saw yourself going into womanhood, and just even trusting yourself going forward. Did you have a hard time trusting yourself and decisions that you would make, even though neither one of you were you were just wrong place, wrong time? But did that cause an effect to trusting yourselves?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I question every decision I make, and like Chap said, overthink everything. So yeah, it definitely affected the way it affected growth, it affected maturity, it affected all of it.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, Amethyst. I'm right there with you. You know, when I had my son, I was in my early 20s and I still felt so unprepared. And I think that I clung to trying to make every right decision for him, trying to fix myself. And when he left, because now I'm an empty nester and have been for 6 years, I fell apart because I no longer had anyone to fix but myself. And I had no one to guide but myself. And I had to find a new purpose. And it was very difficult for me. The first year, especially, it was, and it's gotten easier. It's gotten better the more I work on myself and the more I allow myself to be who I am, even if it's screwed up, the easier I find it to live in general. Yeah.
I've thought that there's a lot of blame and shame I think that victims holds, and blame, like they they internalize it so much, because even if like you guys were both wrong place, wrong time, nothing that was anything that you could have prevented. It was, they were going to offend, and unfortunately you just became the targets. But so often I think the blame and shame that comes with it, even just talking to the two of you, like goes forward and so far into, like, even now currently, you know, in your lives and stuff. And maybe we should talk about how the victimization of this stuff and re-victimizing it, like, would you guys like to highlight the articles that were wrote derogatory by women about your cases and talk about that impact on your guys' selves at all? It's totally up to you guys, whatever you want to talk about. Don't say anything you're uncomfortable with.
Sure.
Well, if you don't mind, Amethyst, I'll go first.
Yes.
Only because mine is 2 minutes long. I can tell you that I reached out to one of those women after she published the story, and I explained to her everything that was wrong with how she went about writing it and why she could never interview another victim survivor in her life, or until she at least got some kind of training in empathy. And that she literally spelled out, word for word, what he would have to fake and say and how he should react in the next hearing to get out. So I had it out with this lady, and I'll tell you what, never felt so good in my life to actually express myself fully. That's how I handled it. So, not very graceful.
Rightfully so, though. You want to talk about yours, Am?
I've posted the articles on community post, and kind of highlighted two articles that were written. One was written by a woman, and she, one, got the facts wrong, and two, she was so descriptive with certain things that happened. It was traumatizing. In my case, it was 12 years. It was a cold case for 12 years. So I was stuck in that day for 12 years thinking, he's around me. He knows where I am. He could get me at any time, my children. So 12 years I was stuck that way. And then 2007, they told me that they had him. And of course, when we went to court, there were journalists there. And like I said, she just what she wrote was absolutely disgusting, to the point that in those times you could put comments and stuff on articles and people were just being so vile, talking about, oh, she must have liked it, and well, it didn't do much to her, look at all the kids she's got, and just very, very vile. So another journalist reached out to me and asked, he said, first he had those comments deleted and removed, and no one could comment on it anymore, because he knew how it was affecting me. And then he's like, let's sit down, can we have a talk? I want to hear your story, I want your words. So we did that, and then he let me read the article before it went to edit and publish. And I mean, it was, the difference was astonishing, because I mean, she never reached out to me. She just blurted whatever, and like I said, was descriptive. And then he actually took the time to sit with me, to get to know me, and then make me feel comfortable. And then we were able to do this together, interview together, the art, and the article came out very nice.
Amethyst, do you think that plays a role in how the women handled your story versus how the men did? Does that play a role in your life?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
I have how can I say this? I have a hard time with relationships with women. I cannot connect with very many women, and I always have my guard up. More so with women than men. Strange, but that's how it is.
No, that's why I asked. I'm exactly the same way. I cannot, like I can talk to women, I can introduce myself to women, but if you were to ask me if I have any really close women friends over the years, I can think of two.
Yeah.
It's definitely impacted me. So I just wondered, how crazy was I?
Oh no, we're both there. We're on the same page.
Neither one of you are crazy at all. Oh, it is my audio. It's just me over here making noise.
It's you.
It's me. I'm the noisy one. Thank you guys for sharing that. I know that that's been something. Speaking of this, and maybe you guys, because I know you both are very passionate about the current situation that's going on with families being re-victimized and victims being re-victimized. And one thing that we talk a lot about is how the victims are always forgotten. People can talk about the crime, the offender, but they don't know anything about the victims, or they talk for the victims. Did you both experience that at quite some time and feel like, well, I know, Am, you were treated like a piece of evidence during the whole court procedure. Did you experience that too, Chapped? And if you guys want to talk about that a little bit.
No, actually, I had an amazing DA. It didn't hurt that he was young and trying to make a name for himself.
Male.
Yes.
It's female.
See, and I do think women are so much harder on each other than men are on women as a whole. And I have to say that I come across men who are like, what do you mean this is bothering you to the point where you need a day off? I run across that. But 90% of the time, I tell them, I show them the paper, I let them know it's been going on for 32 years, and you're screwed if you think I'm not going to be there. I can find another job. I can't keep myself safe if this guy's out. And I'll have to find myself a new job and a new house every 6 months at the very least if he gets out. So if you think this job matters to me that much, you're you're nuts. But I do think women are much harder on each other. Absolutely. I'm going to smoke, and I don't want to, be a visual boo-boo, so I'll turn my camera off for a minute.
You're good. You're totally good. Is there anything you would like to address? You guys have the floor. Say, open book. Do whatever, say whatever you feel like talking about. We can go into anything. If there's any questions, feel free to ask them. They're both incredibly brave and some of the strongest humans I know, and they will answer anything. Please be respectful, of course, but if there's anything you want to go into a little bit.
I just want to point out that the incident happened. We are victims, but our life doesn't stop. And we still have to deal with everyday things. We still have to deal with other traumas. It doesn't stop. So, I mean, kind of speaking in current times where people are judging, families based off of how they react or how people feel that they should react. That is so wrong. It is so wrong because not only are we dealing with the trauma of the incident, it just keeps going. Life keeps going. Our time stops for us as far as where we are mentally, but time doesn't stop, like in the physical. We still have to get up. We still have to go to work. We still have to, deal with kids. We still have to deal with family, deal with other traumas. This was definitely not the only trauma that I went through, and this is not like the only incident where I had to deal with police that were not the greatest. I was in an incident where my ex went through a mental spiral, and he ended up kidnapping my youngest child, who was 8 months old at the time. And it was an awful experience, and the news ended up in front of my house that I was renting. So my address was out there. They printed the full name of myself and my children in the articles, and the community completely turned on me because I kept saying he didn't mean to do it. It was a mental breakdown. And so I was looked at as that I was defending him in kidnapping my child. I was not defending him. I was trying to explain this was a mental spiral. This was something that it was outside sources that got to him, and people turned on me for that. I had a teacher tell me that she was going to adopt my child, that my children were going to be taken from me. I had a man that my window was broken, and he tried to physically get into my house, late at night with me, like horrified, and I'm on the phone with the police, and police took forever to get there. I mean, it was really, really, really bad. And between the news media and the community, yeah, I didn't react the way you expect somebody to react. So I was, labeled like I was a guilty party as well. And I see a lot of that happening now with social media and people expecting people to act a certain way. There is no right or wrong way to react when you're in a trauma. And again, you're dealing with that trauma and life is still going. So take that into consideration. Pointing fingers, making people feel like they're being accused is not the way to go. You lose the victim in it as well when you do that. So
I absolutely agree. I have been very fortunate in the respect that I'm not going to name the officer that I first came across during my specific trauma that we're talking about. But if he happens to hear this, I want him to know that as a very young officer, he was amazing. Absolutely amazing. He not only got me through the moment, but he stayed with me at the hospital and the 7 hours afterwards when we drove out to the scene of where it happened so they could collect evidence, and then went to the department to take statements, pictures, etc. of her evidence. He was absolutely amazing. And I've been really lucky in a lot of ways, but I have to tell you that there have also been moments where officers have not been that great. And I agree with you that my reaction may have started that, if you want to look at it that way, because I handled a different trauma in an obscure way. But watching what's going on with some of these cases, I 100% agree with you, Amethyst, that however you react, however you handle it, is the right way to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you get through it without spiraling. And unfortunately, so many people do what they think is expected of them that they begin to spiral. And I think we're seeing some of that play out on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
These people are thinking it's expected that you tell them everything, relay every bit of information, and be on panels and be open. And if that's not who you are at the core, it shows because you start to spiral.
Yeah.
And if that's not who you are, then you need to handle it in the way that you can, not what's expected. And I look at your traumas that you've experienced after, and I don't feel like my traumas even begin to amount. And I look at your strength and your ability to continue to move forward. And I know that you've had some really difficult moments over the last few months, and I look at you as a very powerful person.
Thank you. I don't feel powerful. I don't feel strong. I think I've so my traumas and things began like I was very young. I was like 6 years old, and it's been chaos since then. So
You haven't had a moment to rebound.
exactly. So I just store it. It goes to the back burner. It gets compartmentalized, and it stays there. I have never worked through any of my traumas. So I don't see myself as strong or powerful. I just see myself as I'm able to mask and move on. That's my coping mechanism. I just mask it and just move forward. This is really the first time that I've ever spoken out on any incident that has happened to me. And that's mostly because I've been told don't speak on it.
Good for you. Good for you for finding the strength to go against the grain.
Yeah.
I am the complete opposite.
Yep.
I have unpacked everything as it comes. And I assume that's why I stand alone most of my life, is because people don't know what to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
They're used to, okay, you don't like this, you don't feel comfortable with this, tough shit, suck it up.
See,
And
you are such an inspiration to me. You are such an inspiration to me. I wish I had just a tiny bit of your strength, of the way you handle situations. Because I mean, I just
see, and a lot of people in the world look at you as the stronger person. because you're able to move forward carrying the weight of all of that with you. Whereas I unpack it and throw it in the ditch as I'm driving down the road. I'm lighter than you are. So you, in a lot of ways, are much stronger than I am.
See, and I don't see, like, I don't do the compare of, oh, my story versus this story versus that story.
Mhm.
We are victims who are trying to become survivors. And we're doing the best we can. And there's no, written directions on how to do this, how to get over this.
Do you remember what I told you? I wanted to start a 501c3.
Yes.
And
Yes.
what did I want to call it?
Sisters survive
Sisters of Survival.
of survival. Yes. Yes.
Because
Mhm.
if you survive the trauma, it doesn't matter what that trauma was. It doesn't matter
Mhm.
what you feel like you contributed to get to that trauma or what you're carrying with you after the trauma. You are a survivor. If you did not get left behind and they didn't have to come find you, you are a survivor. You might not feel like it, and you might feel like someone else is stronger than you, dealt with it better, whatever, got past it faster, better, what, I don't care. You are a survivor. You are a survivor the minute you walked away from that trauma.
Mhm.
And don't let anybody ever tell you anything different.
Thank you.
And if I have to write it on sticky notes and fly down there and stick it all over your damn house, I will. And I only get 1 day off every 2 weeks. So come on, girlfriend, help me out here.
I gotta go grab Kleenexes. I'll be right back. You guys can.
You're gonna go grab what?
Kleenexes. You guys have me over here like I can't even keep it. I'm waterworks. You both know that at times.
I know. We love you though.
Yes.
I love you too.
All right. Can you see the chat, Am?
Yes.
Okay, because I had to shut mine down. I was the
Okay.
noisy one.
We've got so many supporters. So many.
Well, thank
God,
you
I love you
guys.
all.
I know I appreciate the platform. I have not taken to the streets or the media in 32 years, and it's kind of a big deal for me to cam up because I work in a male-dominated industry where I have to be respected and for the choices and decisions I make. But I want you guys to all know that we appreciate you being here. It's not an easy thing for others to listen to any more than it. You're so cute. Oh, Becky. So for you to tune in purposely and listen it means a lot. It means more than you know.
Love you too, T.
Is that T. Marie?
Yes, that's our T.
Oh man. Always says hello, always thanks everybody. Yeah, spot on. That person, you deserve a gold sticker.
We have a lot of amazing women over here, and they said it too. Thank
Men
you.
too.
And men, yeah. I always leave the men out, but we really do have a lot of good men that care about this stuff, and they see the impact. And a lot of men are victims too, so often. And it's still this thing that there's still the stigma that men don't talk about, mental health and abuse and all of that stuff. And it's so important for men to be highlighted.
Absolutely. It's funny you say that. That's one of the reasons that I've been rethinking. And it honestly started because I'm sitting out on my job site last week, 14 hours a day on a hillside staring at nothing. I got to thinking about that whole Sisters of Survival, and I thought, I'm leaving out some very important people who have a harder time coming out with their trauma than even we do.
Yeah.
So we need to come up with a new name, because I'm going to be ready at the end of this year to, as long as I don't decide to, like, on a whim move or something crazy, which, you know, if I get through next week, then we'll know if I need to move or not. But
That's how I'm feeling too.
yeah, like you're tentative.
Yeah, it's like time stops until we have that meeting, and then it's like, okay, am I able to exhale yet, or do I
Yeah.
need to?
Is life going to continue?
Yeah.
Or do I have to change everything?
And for you to have to go through this every 8 months, oh my goodness. Oh my, I don't know how you're able to keep it together.
Oh, I don't always keep it together, I promise. I spend a lot of time on the road, as you know. And I'll tell you what, there are days that I am crying the whole way, looking at the future and knowing that I can't go any farther past a certain day. I get reached out to by certain, I think it's okay to mention their channel, Pause of War, about taking on another animal that a soldier has become very close to on active duty, and it needs somewhere to be until they become inactive. And every time I know there's that hearing looming, and it's within 60 days, we'll say, I can't even say yes, because I don't know where I'm going to go. And I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know what I will do. I worry about work. Not just leaving the job that I'm at, but finding adequate work to support myself somewhere else. And it's not that I don't have 11 or 12 years in my field to support me, but it's hard to support yourself when you're on your own. And when you think about moving somewhere drastically different, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars. It's not an easy thing to do. And that's the worst of it. So don't you feel like I'm doing better because I'm getting through the moment. I'm still only thinking till next week.
Yeah.
Am, I know this has been it's been a roller coaster ride the last few months, because I think, like, not to speak for you, but I think you had just kind of checked it in your head that this is the way it was going to go. He was going to be released, and you were preparing for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had to almost, like, even though this is what we were hoping for, with a review would be requested or granted. But I think that also added additional stress, because now, once again, you have to go in front, you have to talk about it. And I know you've been struggling with writing, even like your words. And I think that's so important for people to even understand. Like, when we say, a 2-minute speech, I don't think people understand the reality of, even to write how this has impacted their lives for almost 30 years, what that does current time too. Like, and I'm going to highlight that in my letter, like, just seeing how it's affected, your current everyday life, because it's a safety concern. You don't know where you're going to go, what you're going to do. Like, the outcome of this affects your entire thing, and it's almost paralyzing. Is that right? Like, you've been,
Yes.
and I'm sure chap 2 for you too. It's like,
well, and I think one of the, I hate to say it this way, but one of the good things about doing it every 8 months is I never get real comfortable. I don't have that sense of security, if you will. I never let myself feel like hey, look, I'm stable for the next 10 years. I know it's not going to be stable.
We'll never have stability. There's never going to be stability because
No,
we're always going to have that thought in the back of our heads of
absolutely.
them getting out, or what we have to do to keep them in, or
Yeah.
for me, like I said, went 12 years as a cold case, so it was like he was always behind me in my mind. I always felt like he was around. So then in 2007, when we went to court, he was already doing 60 years, and he got an additional 100 years to life, so 160 years to life. And
Right.
I
You
was told
think
he would.
I'm good.
Yeah, I was told he wouldn't even see a parole board until he was in his 90s. He's in his 40s. So for me, I was like, okay, compartmentalize, throw it over here. I don't even have to deal with it. He's not getting out. There's nothing, not even going to work through it, whatever, just move on. And then to be hit with, they changed the law, and now here he is up for parole, and most likely he will get out. It's just, I keep feeling like it's blow after blow after blow after blow, and just takes me back to being a victim rather than being a survivor.
Yep. And I think that one of the things that helps me is having a plan B.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm never able to get comfortable, I'm never able to look more than 8 months down the road at the most. I always have a plan B. I am ready to roll. I am ready to go. I find space in my head to figure out what next. And I'm not advocating that will work for everyone. But where you compartmentalize, you put things in a box, put them in your head, and can shift your boxes around and pull out what you need when you need it. I'm more like a ball of yarn that's on fire at both ends all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I always have an escape plan. Whereas you don't have that at your fingertips. I want you to know that if I have to take a month of income so that you have a plan B, that's okay.
You are so sweet.
It's not about being sweet. It's about the reality of,
Yeah.
I know what that's like.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what it's like to not prepare for it. I do know what it's like to get caught unprepared. And I don't want you to ever feel caught there.
I try to sit there and have plan B, C, D. I try to sit there and have all of these plans, but then I go in, I overthink it, and it's like, nope, that's not going to work. Nope, can't do that. Nope, nope, nope. I mean, it's like I put myself on this merry-go-round of craziness.
I can think of a million reasons why I don't have time to do a live right now.
Yeah.
I can think of a million reasons why I don't want to go back to work tomorrow. I can think of a million reasons why I don't have time to clip my toenails. I got you, girl. But because you have so much on your plate all at once, and you're on a very limited time schedule, I know you have so many supporters in this island, and that makes me feel so much better for you.
You
Seriously.
both do.
Well, thank you. I know I'm newer to the island, so
it don't matter.
No.
That don't matter at all. You are an islander through you
But
both are what the epitome of islander stands for. Strong, incredibly brave. Yes.
Thank you. But I will tell you that's why I took Wednesday off, as I will be sitting in a cabin in BFE And I will be literally sitting there on the phone all day if that's what it takes. I will be on the
Thank
computer
you.
all day if that's what it takes. I don't want you to get through it and not have an outlet. And I know you have Becky, and I know you have the outlet, the Islanders, the outlet of
Mhm.
logging on, and I'm grateful for that. But I want you to know that in a pinch, there's financial help if you need it too.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, you have helped me. We've had long conversations, and you have no idea how much you have helped me and made me kind of look at things in a different light. And like, I hold so much guilt and everything, and we talk about that. And
Yeah,
I starting to see things in a different way. And that's all because of you, because of your support and the conversations we've had and how we've connected.
you're so sweet, honey. I will accept 10% of that, but I think that 90% of it is your willingness to find the light, even when it's really dark, and that's huge. That takes a lot of courage, a lot of courage.
Thank you both for being here.
A small round cheese block asked, how old was he when he did this? For me, um, he was 21 at the time, and then when he did the two other rapes after me, he was 23. How old was
Philip?
Mm-hmm.
Philip was 17 when he essayed the other lady in my case, who came forward 3 years ago and reached out to me. And then he was 39 when he did it to me. And go ahead.
I'm curious as how you and the other victim connected, because that's one thing in my situation that I respect the other two victims. They don't want to be involved in any of this. They don't want to know anything about it. But I would love somehow to connect with them. But I don't see that ever happening. How were you able to connect with the other victim?
I didn't. It was all her. She buried this much. She carried it like you do. She compartmentalized it, moved on with life. But she always wondered. And because I went public, she saw my story way back when. And just a little over 3 years ago, she reached out to me by messenger. And within the first 2 or 3 sentences, she said she was sorry. And that's why I understand so well the pain that you carry, some of it, and why it's so important for me to remind you that the people after you do not look at it in any other way than, oh my God, thank you. Now I have someone to stand with me. We don't look at you like you didn't do enough, or none of that exists in our lives. In our lives, when you reach out to us, we go, oh my God, I'm not alone anymore. I don't have to fight this alone.
Yeah.
And that's been huge. Huge. Knowing that I don't have to, every 8 months, stand alone. And she was amazing.
I'm so happy that you have that connection with someone else. I mean, it's unfortunate because of the reason, but I'm so it's a great thing that you have that connection with someone else.
But she'd been following my case. And when he went up for parole and got granted the real parole hearing, the 13-person board, the first time is when she said that she first thought about reaching out to me, but that when I was able to make it stop and he got denied, that she kind of hesitated. And she waited 2 more years, and then she reached out to me. And oddly enough, it was when that ding-dong lady put out her her adverse, in my opinion, write up on the parole hearing, was when the other lady reached out to me by messenger. And I probably took me 2 days to find it, because it always goes to your spam folder or others or want to connect with you, and I don't check that much. I wrote her back immediately after I read it, and I was sure to tell her the same thing I tell you, that please don't be sorry. I don't look at it that way, and I don't have anything but excitement about getting to know you, your story, and I want you to feel heard. And she sent me her number. We talked on the phone within 24 hours, and there was a lot of crying, a lot of similarities, and a lot of virtually hugging each other and supporting each other. And ever since then, her and her husband now go to every hearing. He stepped in the last hearing, and now they both show up at every hearing. And we talk almost every day for the couple of weeks before the hearing, and then intermittently throughout. One of us is struggling, we reach out to the other one. So
That's beautiful.
yeah, but she finally got to be heard. And you got to understand, she was 7 when it happened to her, and like I said, there were so many similarities that I told her, you have to tell your story, your whole story. You have to let it go. You have to say it. And it started her healing process, and it was amazing to hear her tell her story in a parole hearing. And I made her go first. I told her, I said, we're doing this in chronological order so they can follow along. And I made her go first. And she said after the hearing that when we talked, that she said, no matter what happens, thank you for letting me feel heard. You're right. I feel better about being heard, because at 7, her mom and dad decided that it was in her best interest to take a plea deal. And that's what happened. So this was the first time in 30 years she had ever been heard.
Oh my goodness.
So, it's it was a great experience for both of us, I have to say. And she has talked about coming live and talking about her story as well, and joining forces with me and being open. But she does have a very public job, and she's concerned. She still has kids at home, concerned about how it will affect them. Her husband actually is kind of on my side on this one and thinks, let's go, girl, push forward.
Mm-hmm.
But when and if she's ready, we will all bring her in.
Of course, she will have all the support.
Anything we can do.
Mm-hmm.
But
Some of us rent storage units for trauma and just pack it all away in the storage unit.
There you go. I'll rent one in Arizona.
Perfect. Come on over.
That way it gets really heated and shit just burns up.
There we go. Hell, that's a good idea. I think you mentioned something in that though too. Like I think it's so important to point out that again, back to like everybody processes so differently, and what looks like, at the fear of like talking publicly or facing him in a court hearing, I'm sure was daunting. I'm sure just even thinking of going to that point, she was a child when it happened, and the bravery that took to confront all of that after all of these years, I'm sure was incredibly hard. But I think sometimes too, we often, victims, and you guys please speak freely however you feel about this, but I know for me, like just in things that I've dealt with in my life, I have a way of trying to push it away and not dealing with it, not talking about it, not dealing with it, thinking it'll just get better over time. And you realize that one trauma plays into another trauma, plays into another trauma. Am, you were talking about this a little bit too. You just kind of live in this constant state of chaos where you just kind of maneuver yourself to get by. And I think that sometimes, you being there, thankfully, Chapped, allowed her to come forward and use her voice and speak her voice and start on that healing part. But I think there's many people, the reality is a lot of people go to their grave never talking about it, never being able to tell their parents, never being able to actually start the healing process of this either. What do you guys think on that? I kind of left that open-ended. Is there anything?
No, I honestly, I agree 100%. There's more people that compartmentalize and mask it and get by, then there are people that are able to take the time to unravel it or take the courage to unravel it. Like I said, to me, Am is much stronger than I am in the respect that she has to carry all that and still get through the day. For me, I can't imagine how difficult that is. And for anyone that is carrying something like that, I look at you as a force to be reckoned with, because you can get through anything and still exist in this world. But that's also part of why when we first talked, Becky, I changed my mind about the Facebook thing, because so many people on Facebook use their real name, whereas on YouTube, if I gave you my YouTube email, people could be anonymous. They could still unpack it or begin to face it without the fear of losing their anonymity. And I think that is more valuable than the Facebook.
Yeah, makes sense.
I do, though. I think there's so many more people that deal with it differently than I do. And that's okay. That is whatever you have to do to survive the trauma and live with it is okay. There is nothing wrong with how you're dealing with it. And don't you dare let anyone tell you otherwise. They haven't been there.
Unfortunately, sex crimes are the least to be reported because of the fear, humiliation, the guilt, just wanting it to all just go away. You get in the shower, you let the hot water drip all over you, and you just wish that it all went down the drain. And that ends up, so it ends up that many people don't report. And that is one of my biggest fears with this, because the James Edward Short has stated that he now feels he's a sex addict, which is very contradictory of what he is, because he has been diagnosed as a sexual sadist. So he gets off on the fear and humiliation that he puts in people. He doesn't get off on the actual sexual act. It's the violence. But he now claims that he is a sex addict, and he's actively looking for programs that he can be in. And it's almost like he's looking for his next prey, because they are least likely to report because of their situation, and it terrifies me. I mean, I feel like he just has a plan all set up for how he is going to create more victims.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. The fact that the board hasn't looked at these things, and the fact that they approved him, is just, it's absolute insanity to me. Malicious intent, you asked if this is the new California law. Yes, this went into effect, I think, around 2015, 2016. And it's all they did is they raised the age of the youth offender. So it started out at 18, 21, 23, and now we're at anyone 26 and younger that commits a crime is considered a youth offender. And no matter what their crime is, after they have served 15 to 25 years, they are eligible for a parole hearing.
So, Amethyst, expanding off what you were saying about how he has now decided that he has an actual medical diagnosis, and that everything he's done in taking these classes and, whatever, getting certificates of clearance, if you will, in a plan to get out, and how that's going to allow him to continue to reoffend and avoid. Have you thought about focusing your letter, your acknowledgement, your speaking on the statistics of how many people actually have a sexual addiction, and whether or not those classes coincide with any kind of getting better,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or focusing on the fact that, it's amazing that he went all these years without taking a class or trying to get help until this new law came into effect. Have you thought about focusing on those kind of things rather than focusing on your actual story?
Well, I have decided that I am not going to focus on, my truth, or, the action that he took against me. I have things written down, and what I've done is I've taken his own words in the parole hearings, and I am posing them to the board. I just have to find a cohesive way to put them all together. But I want his own words to show that he has not rehabilitated. There is no rehabilitation. My mom, she's an RN. She also has a forensics component with that, and she worked for the prison system for many years. So she is actually writing her statement in a way that's more professional, and she's bringing out statistics, and she's bringing out the diagnosis, and how, there was no way that he could have, magically rehabilitated in this amount of time. There is no rehabilitation. So she's going to focus on that, and I want to try and focus on his own words to show that he is making statements that he is going to continue to do this.
I'm glad that you're attacking it from both sides.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good idea. Because this hearing is about, more or less, did the parole hearing or did the parole board do their job? I think it's a really good idea to focus on those technical aspects.
The programs that he took to are all like self-help programs. He has 16 certificates, and these aren't like classes. These aren't from, he didn't see psychs. He didn't actually go through therapy. He did these mail-in certificates that the self-help, you do it yourself, and then at the end of it, you get a certificate saying you're all better now. The other issue is there's nothing to measure if there is any rehabilitation, because there was no testing, there was no diagnosis, there was nothing done in the beginning of this. They didn't bother to diagnose him or have him talk to a psych until just before the first parole hearing. So we have not much of anything to go on to say, he's rehabilitated or he's not going to do this again. And his words and his actions, I mean, he's gotten in fights and things like that in prison. So, I mean, his actions alone speak for how he is going to behave when he gets out.
Well, and he was also on probation when he committed 2 of these horrific rapes.
Mm-hmm.
He had also just been released. He spent, many of his years before. Again, he was convicted in Amethyst story. He was convicted of 3, has admitted to 5, but the likelihood of more is there. And he had spent time in prison for violent attacks before, not in the sexual nature, but physical, like aggression nature. So many violent offenses previous to this. So it's like the snowball. He's been pretty much incarcerated since he was the time he was an adult.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And every time he was out, he committed more offenses.
Yeah.
Okay, so hearing what you were saying about, you kind of got it covered, it sounds like, from both sides, and that these certificates were not therapists involved. I wonder if you could pose the question to this review board. Why hasn't he taken a polygraph about whether or not he still wants to offend?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, maybe not even go that in depth, just has he taken a polygraph? Because that is one of the things that Philip Steele, my offender, continues to say. Oh, well, I've taken a polygraph about reoffending and I pass. Well, yeah, if I had 30 years to be delusional in a 12 by 12 cell, I might pass anything you ask me to, but it doesn't mean it's true. But knowing that that's available to SA perpetrators in the justice system, I wonder if you propose that towards the end of your letter.
I could, but he has already, in his own words, he has stated that, the urge is still there. The only thing that is putting a Band-Aid on it is he takes medication, and he is in an environment where he doesn't have access to do his crimes. But he has pretty much, in his own words, said that.
So I'm curious, what did he say to the board that made them go, yeah, well, we don't really have a choice. Okay.
So here in California, when it's the youth offender law, the very first thing that is said in the parole papers, the very first thing that the commissioner says is that they take great weight in the age of the person when they committed the crime. That is what they are looking at. They're looking at his age, and they are stating that the brain is not developed until age 27, this, that, and the other. And that because of that, that's why he committed these crimes. And they completely overlook his own words. So it's great weight on his age. And here in California, so it's, 26 and younger, you're considered a youth offender, but then when you hit about 50, you're considered a senior and you are a burden because now they
Right.
have more medical. So there's really only like a 23, 24-year period that if you commit a crime, you're actually considered an adult or, you know, someone that should be incarcerated.
Can you maybe, can we, I will take the time. I don't have a lot of it, you guys know that, but I will take the time to find documentation on how many people California has released due to this law that have reoffended.
Yeah, I'm trying to look for that because typically they put out, California yearly puts out like you know, the percentages and stuff of people who are in, the type of crimes, this and that, and then they'll also do like how many have been released. So I am looking for that information. I don't know if they still do it. They did it about 10 years ago, but you know, I don't know if they still have that public. But it would be great to have, and it would be great to know how many reoffended after they were released.
I don't even think it needs to be public. I have a couple of contacts. Maybe we can get that information for you.
No.
Hey, Barb.
That would be really good information to probably have. You're fine. You're
My
totally
neighbors, I'm never home, so when my neighbors are here, hang on.
You're good. I'm going to mute you just so you can have a private conversation. She can unmute herself when she comes back. Poor thing. Oh, there she is. Oh, hold on. There you go.
Sorry, I had to bail for a minute. My neighbor, sorry. When
You're
I'm
good.
home, my neighbors are so used to me not being home that when I'm home, they like to say hi.
You're totally fine. I'm glad that you have neighbors right there, though.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. We've got like a four houses here that we all kind of own the neighborhood.
Nothing wrong with that.
So it works out good.
That's great.
They've been known to call me on the road and let me know that, hey, whose truck is this? And send me a picture.
That's wonderful, though.
So yeah, works out all right. I apologize, you guys. I'm so sorry.
Don't apologize for anything.
No, but let me dig into that Monday morning and see what we can come up with.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, I don't know that it'll, produce in time, but at least we can try.
You're right.
Anything's worth a try. The only other thing that I have thought about as far as your case, Am, is that I know so many of the islanders and other people, because you had, the grace to be exposed on other channels, is people really love you and want to help you. And I think it's important that they understand that this is a review hearing. And I think that maybe got lost a little bit. And
Absolutely.
that it is focused not so much on the outcry of would you want this person living next to you, but the legality of it. And I'm probably going to have to work 2 more years, but I'm okay with that. But then we would be set to start in California, and I think that law needs to be changed. It can't be a blanket law.
I think you mentioned something that was very important, though. You stated that, the fact that it's not a parole hearing got lost. It did, because even for us to figure out what the steps were, like there is very limited communication to the victims of how these processes and procedures work. And that's one thing that I've noticed that is really difficult to even get direct answers, to get the right communication, what happens from this point to this point. If it wasn't for that DA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Pepper asked, is this his first parole hearing? So his first parole hearing was in May of 2021. It was actually scheduled for December of 2020, but the big C, someone had tested positive, so we weren't able to do it. It was rescheduled. First hearing was May of 2021. And he was denied, and he was asked, he was told 5 years. The board wanted him to work on himself for 5 years before he came up again for parole. But in California, they have what is called an advanced hearing. So he can petition, he can say he finished a book, he got a certificate, somebody patted him on the back and said, good job. So he can put in a request for an advanced hearing. And that's what he got in November of 2023. And that is when the board approved him. So when they approved him, it was a 180-day race to try and get the governor to pay attention to us. I was hoping that he would overturn it completely, but he didn't. He asked for a review board. And the review board is not looking at, they're not looking at it as a parole hearing. They are looking at it to determine whether or not the parole board, the commissioners, made the right decision in approving him for parole. So, like the DA had explained to me, essentially we are asking coworkers to say that another coworker didn't do their job correctly. So, I mean, it's almost highly unlikely that these colleagues are going to point fingers and say no, no, no. But if they do state that, so it can go one of two ways. They have two choices. They can either agree with the parole board's decision and he will be approved and he will be released, or they can say no, this needs to be looked at further, and it's kicked back to the parole board where they assign new commissioners to look at it. And then it's the process of going through another parole hearing. So it doesn't stop here. I mean, it just keeps going.
the legality of it, I know it's not a comfortable question to ask, and it's last minute, but have you asked the DA to review the law?
Oh, absolutely. The DA that I work with is, he's phenomenal. He actually, he does trainings. He does, he reaches out to community. He does all sorts of, he stays on top of it. That is one thing. He can tell you the law. He can explain the whole thing, and he can state exactly why it is. He's absolutely amazing. In fact, he is doing a training during this parole review board, but he stated he is not going to go to his training on that day. He's going to be there, and he is going to make a statement as well. He has already written a letter and sent it in. He has actually done things that he was not supposed to do, because it's not, and you know, the DA has certain steps and certain boundaries and stuff, but he went beyond the boundaries because he really does feel that this person is going to reoffend. So,
Have you, this is going to be a horrible thing, so brace yourself.
oh, open book, go ahead.
I know you're an open book, but it doesn't take the pain away.
No.
I want to know if you've prepared yourself for all of the emotions that could be coming.
I'm numb. I have gotten myself to a point where I am just numb because I know either way, it doesn't matter which decision this parole board makes, it's not gonna end. So I've just put myself in a numb state, which is dangerous because when it fades away, it's all going to come rushing in. But
Okay, well, you know who to call, right?
oh, absolutely. Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I know you've got a list of numbers and supporters, and I want you to use them. Just promise me that you will not, as hard as it's going to be, if that moment comes, I don't want you to shut down or do what I do, which is lock yourself in a closet and just cry. Okay?
Yeah, I have the closet or I have the bathtub.
Okay, but you're going to promise me you're not going to do that. You're
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
use those phone numbers, get online, you're going to find your supporters and get through it, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I have you, I have Becky, and then I have all of the Islanders here on YouTube, and this is my support system. I don't have much outside of this. This is
None of us.
absolutely
We're
this
weird.
is who I have, and I'm grateful, and I am so blessed to have all of you, and it has made such a difference in how I'm able to handle these things. So I thank and I appreciate everybody.
Can
If I'm
I
missing questions, I'm sorry.
can I just once again thank you guys for being so open and brave and sharing, like, this is a hard conversation to have, let alone to have it publicly, let alone to open up about the real, like, it's hard to say that you're scared, but the reality is, you ever this is such an important conversation because people don't understand. So many people, I think, on social media, we follow it through, in true crime community, they follow it through the crime, sometimes the conviction, and then very few follow it further than that, and they don't realize the victims are being re-victimized by our systems, the media,
Mm-hmm.
poor policies, having to go to parole hearings. Like, this is the reality that so many face.
Well, look at how intense certain creators followed the Leilani Simon case, the Quentin Simon case. Look at how intense they were. You don't see a damn thing online, on YouTube, on those people's channels about the latest hearings that just went on. So they didn't care about that little boy. They cared about what that little boy could do for their channel. And it's sickening. As a victim, as a survivor, it is sickening to watch them not follow through. They have abandoned that child,
Absolutely.
deceased or not, because it no longer fits their narrative and it no longer fills their pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
that's sickening.
look at the current case with Sebastian Rogers, for instance. There's no crime that's been committed at this point in time that we know of.
But they're all pointing fingers.
Right. They've already convicted them. In fact, I took a screenshot of a comment earlier today in a chat, and I was just astounded. And it's shameful. It says, so it was on Pascal's live, and he was going over the situation in Oklahoma with the tragedy of the two moms.
The two moms.
And a lady says, okay, didn't have to have a body. Tennessee, don't need one either. Arrest the Proudfoots. They will turn on each other. Great job. Okay, prayers going up. We don't even know if we have no indication of anything what's going on. We don't know if
He's not even been found yet, let
no.
alone deceased. Who are they to start convicting people when we don't even have a crime yet? It's the position, and here again, like I was talking about, going forward is what's expected these days. Had this been had this YouTube been a deal when my case happened, I would have been hounded at 17 to the ground before I even would have made the decision to go public. And then it would have been, we want the salacious details. And then it would have been, oh, well, where does she work? Why isn't she at her apartment anymore? Why isn't she at work anymore? Oh, I bet she faked it. She just disappeared. No, I didn't disappear. I disappeared from that area because I didn't feel safe. But I could have seen this all play out. And you are so right, Becky, that these people are making a crime where one may not exist. And it's because that's what brings people to their channel, is the ability to find blame.
I get kicked out of so many Facebook crime discussion pages because I get so frustrated, and it's one of my biggest pet peeves, and it makes me it just disgusts me that people will throw out accusations, theories, and crimes that there's no evidence of any of that taking place. So why are you taking something that is already a tragedy, already horrific, and throwing rumor into it that just makes it even that much more tragic? I mean, why would you're almost wishing this on people, and it's disgusting.
Well, and you know as well as I do that the reality of not having that spicy factor, okay, then we aren't going to air it. We aren't going to follow it. We don't care about that victim. Look how intent some creators were on following Layla Santinello. And yet, have we heard anything about her in 2 months, 3 months? Not a word. Look at how some creators were all over, find this person, find that person. But when it comes down to it, when we can't find that person, it disappears. It's not important anymore. They just found Dylan Rounds. Look at how many people pointed fingers at the mom, the dad, 16 different people in that small little town. And yet we didn't hear much about that, did we? One little blurb is what I got on my feed that said that due to a plea deal, Dylan Rounds has been found. Nobody cared to air that. It's ridiculous. It is so sickening that by the time, let's just take Dylan Rounds because he's recently been found. By the time his killer is in court, nobody's heard about Dylan Rounds for over a year. That's sickening to me. And I'm sorry, but there's more interest in who's mad at who on YouTube and what kind of a drama are we creating between creators than there is about what happened to this poor kid. It's sad.
And it's such an important piece to film the judicial trials, truthfully, because I think transparency in the court system is lacking in understanding. I know for me it was, until Am came around and started. I had no idea that a lot of these things happened to victims, or it didn't even, like, I knew it existed. Like, I knew the system re-victimized people, but to understand it and watch it in real time with your guys' cases has been a whole other perspective. And we need transparency in court systems. We need people to understand that interfering with cases can affect justice for these cases. We're talking jury pools. We're talking evidence collection. We're talking just wild rumors that sometimes are bringing themselves into courtrooms. Like, it is so important for that piece, but I wish people could learn to highlight the victims more and what they're going through instead of just the crime and the offender. Like, and not all victims, you know, some of them are anonymous, of course, but there's not a space where we give the dignity to the victims and the respect to the victims in these situations. So often they're forgotten in their own stories. And we see that play out online with all these crimes.
And honestly, Becky, you are one of the very few channels that take that to another level. And I wish there were more. And it's not as salacious. It's not as attention grabbing to say, hey, come listen to this victim's story as they go through the process. It's not as good or as attention grabbing as, hey, guess what? Breaking news. Something happened with Sebastian's mommy and daddy's dog. I mean, I don't get it why people are so intent on the salacious portions of life, but it's a reality. And fortunately, there are also a third, maybe, of the world that really do care about, hey, whatever happened to so and so? Did they ever get married? I mean, like, look at Elizabeth Smart. Did she ever get married? Did she ever have kids? Was she able to lead a normal life? Does she have a productive job where she can support herself? And you're one of the few channels that cares about those sort of things.
I think that's because I'm not true crime. I think that's because reporting on that for me has always bothered me. Reporting on the crimes and the horrific stories of people's lives, I think it's so personal to me, like in that space of these people are going through the hardest time in their life. I don't want to add to that. But victims are the forgotten ones for me. Like, so, well, you guys know, Marvon's story, I think really opened my eyes to a lot too, how there was no dignity. There was no dignity for the victim. He was the victim, and he was exploited by every single person around him. And you hear these people say that they're the voice for the voiceless. And I'm not talking about voices in specific. I'm just talking about, that's what they say. We're the voices for the voiceless. When in reality, they overtalk the victims. And I mean, even if that victim is passed on, they integrate themselves into what they think happens. And I don't know how to explain this the right way, but everybody has personal trauma and stuff, so they all can identify. Like, that's not what I'm saying at all. Because it's oftentimes for clicks and views. So they sensationalize it. They can't stick to the facts. And that was something that really bothered me, because this is horrific enough as is. Like, this situation was bad enough as is. You didn't have to add anything on top of it. Even just the situation itself is somebody's worst fucking day that's changing their lives for the rest of their life. I think for me too, like, you both know it's really personal for me. I've never talked publicly, and I don't know if I ever will, about a lot of the shit I've been through. And I can't imagine somebody even attempting to discredit things in your life, just like you two have experienced, like with journalism and stuff like that. I want to lessen the burden off of the victims and the family. I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to take and add to what they're going through, because usually when you're going through this shit, all you're doing is just trying to fake it to make it. You're just trying to wheels in motion. These parents, those parents could be any single one of us, any single terrible divorces, custody battles, the shit that very common themes. And I think that for me, I didn't know what my purpose was. I had no idea when I started this. That's why Amethyst, the universe works in weird ways. When Am and I connected online through Marvon's story, it was instantaneous. There was just something there. There was just a comfortability and an understanding that I hadn't had with many people. And she pushed me, not intentionally, sometimes, to think further, look at it bigger, step back, take yourself out of it, look at the bigger picture, look at what these families are, and so many people have been around me. And then you came into my life, same thing. Look at it from this angle. Like, you guys have all added a different angle to it that I even didn't want to admit was there with the revictimization of victims, because it's horrifying. People can disconnect in ways that it's not my life. It's just content. This isn't just fucking content. You two are tangible, real people, real stories, real horrific shit that you've been through. Same with Sebastian's family. No matter what, at the end of the day, no matter the outcome of this, their lives are forever changed. That's bad enough as is. We don't need to add to it. We don't need to do all this stuff. And that's why Am really had me step out of and realize that true crime for me wasn't anywhere I ever wanted to go. But the reality is true crime creators, there's very few. Most of this is about the clicks and views. It's not about the victims. And if you're removing the victim out of the stories that you're telling, you're not even telling the stories. And you're doing a horrible job doing it. And, I've been lucky because lately we've found so many other channels that are victim-centered, that really want to do better by the victim. But it takes victims like you guys coming out and using your voices and saying, this is what the reality, this ain't pretty. We can't make the reality palatable. We can't make it go down smoother. This is the raw, real, uncut version, because this is people's real lives. I don't know if that makes sense, but you two have taught me so much more than I ever, but it's also healing for me, because I haven't found that voice yet. But something I've always been really good at is helping to fix others. I dive myself into trying to fix. I'm a fix-it. I couldn't fix my own situations. You both are going to know this. But I can do something about this. I can do something to help.
And you are. You are.
That's all I want. I could care less if we have 12 people here. I could care less if we have 2 people. The reality isn't pretty, but this is the reality of so many people around us. 1 in 3, 1 in 4 people are sexually assaulted. Men and women. Kids go missing with special needs all the time. Suicide is an absolute epidemic.
Every 2 minutes.
Veterans are shit on every day. Like, there's so many things in our world that are horrifying. Religious trauma, you put that, like, that adds a whole other aspect to it too, because people that have religious trauma and sexual abuse, they're indoctrinated not to talk about it. It's shameful. You're bringing shame to your entire family. It's hard enough to deal with the reality of what you were through, let alone
living with the shame.
Yeah. Religious trauma in itself is horrifying, but then when you know that people use it to cover up sexual assaults, sexual abuse, and they hide behind it. And then we have creators who are using it as a weapon to exploit these people. There's just never going to be an okay spot there. Sorry, you guys have just, this is what happens when the two of them, I'm Waterworks. You guys know that by now with these two, okay? Just excuse me over here. My nose runs when I cry and it turns bright red, so just give me grace.
But we can't even see it through your sunburn. We're good.
I have the goofiest tan too. It's so ridiculous. But you guys have shown me that it's hard enough fighting just to survive. We blame ourselves for shit that we didn't have nothing to do with. We didn't have a say in it. I know for myself, I spent 41 years of my life trying to understand. And there's no understanding. You guys both recognize that. You try to process it in like rational, you try to rationalize it and figure it out. Why me? What did I do? That blame game is fucking incredible. And so many people are just like us. And that's why I think that's something that pisses me off though, because so many people are like us. But they don't stop to think about what they're doing to others. A lot of these people that are in true crime or claim to be true crime creators, they have trauma just like the rest of us. But the way that they are able to disassociate from the reality of that for themselves on top of other victims, and then they re-victimize other victims. Sometimes I question if it's because they're angry about their situations and they don't know how to process, or they're not healed or anything, and this is just a reaction to some of what they're processing. Sometimes I wonder that. It just makes you really question humanity. Anyways, that's it.
Social media needs to learn that we're not detectives. We're not judge, jury, and executioner. We should not be judgmental. And true advocacy is to lift the victim's voices. It is to keep the victim, if they're missing something, keep them go. Oh God, I'm losing my words here. Their truth, their story needs to be highlighted. The finger pointing, the making up crazy theories, the rumors, and everything else that damages. It's going to damage the victim. It's going to damage the families. It could damage a case. I mean, we need to stop, stand back, look at everything, and think, where can I make a positive impact in this? And advocacy is lifting the victim's voice.
Truth. I'm so sorry that happened to you. We're seeing that happen in real time. I don't know if you guys saw what Truth said, but
no, I had to shut mine down because I had feedback.
Oh, I'll read it to you.
Okay.
I've been literally made fun of by an adult for being sexually assaulted as a child.
Oh my goodness.
how, like, I'm not asking how that happens. I know, unfortunately. Katie K, thank you so much. We will make sure we do something good with that. That's sadly the reality. Like, it's used as a weapon to cut people down. What?
You know, that's one of the things that I've heard over the years is that finding a safe space to let it go is one of the hardest things that victims, survivors struggle with, because you can tell your spouse, you can tell your kids, you can tell your parents, and you just don't know what kind of reaction you're going to get. And I'm sure that's one of my screw ups in life is that, you know, my family wasn't there. And they were embarrassed and ashamed instead of supportive, which is what I needed. And I'm sure that those trust issues have carried me through to today. And I'm sure that other people feel that same way. And I think that this might be a small island now, but if we are able to continue to move forward and offer a safe space and support and love, hopefully this island will grow. And it will grow with people finding their way to cope with it. That's huge. That's a big impact, Becky.
Well, it's because of all of you guys. Like, truthfully, like, I had no idea what I was doing when I came on this app. Like I said, like, no clue. You know, I knew that his dignity was completely stripped in every way, shape, or form. I mean, just the utter horror of that whole situation. It was bad enough that he attempted to take his life. Like, the very thing was horrific enough. Suicide is horrifying for everybody, and it's not something that just easily you just walk through. And we talk about needing to have these conversations and needing to highlight victims and stuff. But I think that people, like, so many people can connect to those things, and that's what brings them in. Like, they can connect to you too. They can connect to feeling, you know, going through mental health struggles. They can connect to real world things. Like, that's tangible. And then I think there's also the side that people just don't want to deal with that too. Like, they don't want to look at the reality of it. So it's really nice to see. It is like the Islanders, this little safe space that we have is growing in a direction of compassion, empathy, victim-centered. Hell yeah, I'll cuss you out if you exploit victims, and I have no qualm about it. Okay, we all know that. That's my therapy. Because at the end of the day, most people in these situations don't have adequate support during the time. They don't have people to rally around them. It's isolating. A lot of people lose their families. A lot of people lose support groups. We don't have enough resources for all the victims that are out there. We have, like, there's just such a lack. And oftentimes, like, I'm not, like, you two connecting was just the universe. But there's so much power in that. And people connect in the comment section all the time about different things. And that's giving people an opportunity to start processing things that they've had. You know, it's the people that are here because they care, because they can identify with some way, shape, or form these horrific tragedies. And they want better for the victims. Like, that's refreshing to see. this place can be, social media could have such good power behind it, truthfully. Like, if we really did right by the victims, this place could have such power.
We could change laws without having to spend $1,000 on each person to get to the Capitol and tell their story. I mean, it would be a mountain to move.
There's just so much good that could come of it.
Yeah.
And it's just sad that it's used to cut people down, to tear people down at their worst times, you know? I don't know. That's one thing I will say, like, too, I think because I was so green to knowing, like, this aspect of YouTube, I had no clue that this existed. Shit, I barely knew you could comment in live streams on YouTube. So I think that gave me a different, because I didn't know, I wasn't trying to fit into a mold or a community per se. We just kind of did our own thing. We started off with fuck Tessa, Contessa, and Blunt Tessa. And let me tell you, fitting to this day. But
well, I think that our next 3-way live panel needs to be something fun and light.
Oh, I can show you guys some fun videos.
I think that that's what we need to focus on is, you know, we've laid out a lot of heavy thoughts on people, and
yeah,
we have a lot of heavy shit coming in very few days. I think that the next time the three of us get together on panel, that it needs to be light and fun and let everybody know and see that you can be open and still be okay.
Healing is not linear, and it's not pretty, and it's different for everybody.
We need a beaver butt juice.
Oh my God. They can't do that anymore. I've already done that, so we'll have to
we'll have to come up with something new.
Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you all once again for being here and being a part of this conversation. To the creators in the comments, malicious intent. She's got a forensic, she's a master's in forensic psychology, I think.
Oh, I don't want to hear what she has to say about me. Girlfriend, you keep that to yourself, okay?
We got Bop in the comments, who literally...
Bob has some good stuff.
And she will not... She's so afraid of doing harm. She's so afraid of doing any harm that she gets in her head and stops herself. And she has potential of doing great things, like incredible things. She is one of the sweetest, kindest souls. We have a lot of good people who are joining these conversations, and I'm so thankful to see all the new names and stuff in here. And thank you again, you guys, for joining this conversation. Katie K, thank you again so much. What did Katie say? Oh, she's just sending hugs to you guys, but
thank you, Katie K.
Y'all are appreciated beyond measure. It's been a rough couple months. I know for Am, and Chapped is a lot more stoic. This 8 months, I mean, you've also done it so often now that you've kind of had to become numb to the reality of what is happening. And that's unfortunate, because our system shouldn't have the power to do that to victims. And it's sad that it does. It really is sad.
Yeah, I'm conditioned to not show. So I between my job and, you know, the way I was raised, I'm just not conditioned to show. I'll fall apart, but only in my closet. Surrounded by the cats.
That's okay.
Or if you see somebody driving down the interstate in a pickup truck with safety lights all over it, they're bawling their eyes out, you can damn well bet that's me. Wave as you go by, please.
Oh, you guys are great. Is there anything you guys want to talk about before we end? We've been on here for 2 hours.
Yeah, no, we better let everybody decompress for the night. And
This was heavy. I'm sorry. On a Saturday night, this was heavy. A lot of, but thank you again for. I cry only alone. Truth said, I'm the same way, chapped. I cry only alone.
oh, sweetheart.
Claus, thank you so much, Kathy. All of you guys, to my mods in here, of course, you guys are incredible. You guys are truly amazing. Like, thank you for listening. Thank you for all the help you guys have, suggestions. Like,
Absolutely.
Janice in accounting, I saw you sneak in there too.
Can I ask that everybody please go watch Nanya's video that she did for me? It is excellent. She did an amazing job. She's another part of my support system. I know that there's hard feelings here and there, but it's not about that. It is about getting the information out, and lifting the victims' voices. So if you could please, give her a like, sub, or, just watch the video. I would truly appreciate it. If you haven't, go back and watch nonsense videos that she's done with both Chap and I. And she's given us a platform and a safe place to speak our truth, and it's so appreciated and it's so needed. And I'm noticing that there are other YouTubers, other creators out there that are doing the same, and you all are just appreciated. Thank you so much. We are going to make a difference. We are going to make a change.
We may not be able to change it for us, but we will in the future be able to change it for others. I'm hell bent on that.
All of these code words and keeping things, I don't know if it's politically correct or whatever, making statements and stuff. No, we need to call things what they are. We need to stop sugarcoating. If we're ever going to get to the real issue, if we're ever going to get to the point where people will come out and speak, then we need to use the real words. We need to use the real definitions of things. We need to stop candy coating. And I don't want to say we need to normalize it, but in a sense we do. We need to normalize what the trauma is so that people can see and understand that these are real life people who have a trauma and they're still having to live life. They're still having to move through it with that trauma. Life doesn't stop. And there is no right and no wrong way to go through healing. There's no right and wrong way to react to a situation.
Absolutely.
To the commenters, all of you sharing your stories.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that.
The bravery in this chat.
I love that.
Some people have spoke for the first time on stuff that they've experienced, and that's just incredible. Don't ever feel like you're forced to say anything, but it's
it's nice to see that courage come out. Good for you. I'm so proud of all of you for finding your voice.
We got to stop letting the offenders have the voice. It's about the victims, the survivors, the warriors having their voice, because these crimes don't define these people. It's something they have to go through, but they're human beings and they deserve dignity and respect just like anybody else.
Absolutely. All right, I'm going to go duck out and go visit the neighbor finally.
Go have some fun.
Before she shows up at my front window again, petting my cat. All right.
Good night. Love you too.
Bye.
Bye. Is there anything you want to say before we end? I know this was a lot for you too. This is not, just so you guys are aware, this is not, she does not like being the center of attention at all. This is everything out of her wheelhouse of comfort here. So not only is it like a hard topic, but then just She's not Becky. She's not this like.
It's anxiety for me. It's all anxiety, but I feel comfortable with you. I feel comfortable with chat. I feel comfortable with the chat. You guys have made this. Uh, you guys have just given me an environment where I can speak and I feel safe, and I appreciate every single one of you. And thank you for your support. Thank you for your advocacy. Thank you for just listening and for sharing your stories, your truth. And I'm gonna get to the point sometime where my channel, I will start doing more stories. I will highlight. I will, I want to start getting to the point where I can do lives and I can bring people on and we can have conversations. Thank you to everybody who has subbed to me. I appreciate it. I love it. And I'm sorry that there's not many videos or, I'm not consistent with the content, but thank you so much. And I will at some point be more consistent with it. But most of all, I just want to thank you all. I just want to thank you all for being here.
You've, I think, taught a lot of us. You and Chapped both have taught a lot of us a lot. And I appreciate you so much. I feel honored to stand next to you women. And yeah, I'm very thankful for you guys and being so brave. So
oh, I am so thankful for you and just how we connected and everything, and this little island that people have come to. And I mean, we have so many that have been here from day one, and it's powerful, it's beautiful.
It's incredible. It's sometimes overwhelming. If
Mm-hmm.
I'm being truthful, it's overwhelming because I just want to do right with this platform that I was so blessed with. Like, I just want to do what's right and highlight things the right way, do the right thing. So I apologize. Like yesterday, I lost my shit, but I'm sorry. Trolling during stuff, like, there's just a time and place, and that's not shit. And I think it also, like, I didn't even tell you this yet, but Aaliyah had just asked about you and if the hearing had happened. My girls, like, they care. They might be young, but they understand enough. They don't understand all of the details, of course, but they know, like, because Kenzie and I talk about, like, when is it and stuff. So she knew you had a hearing coming up. And she asked did Amethyst hearing go okay? And I said, honey, it's next week. And she's like, oh, it's Wednesday. Because she's like, what date? And I said, the 17th. So when this app can do amazing things too, because it's brought amazing people into my life that I'm so thankful for. But I'm sorry, because I do lose my cool, because when I care about something, like, I'm all or nothing. Like, you know that about me. Like, once I am loyal to a fault, and I love my people hard and strong. And that is something about me. And I will fight tooth and nail for those people. And you guys have really opened my eyes, and I appreciate you guys so much for helping educate me. It's a learning process, and we've got a long ways to go, but I'll be damned.
We're all learning together. We're all, I'm still learning. We're all learning together. And this is, the support and everything. Like you said, it's overwhelming, but it's overwhelming in such a good way, a beautiful way. I've never had support like this. Like I said, I've never really spoken on my story. It was my truth. I was always told, just don't talk about it, don't talk about it, don't talk about it. So now being able to speak on it and having people listen, having people tell their truth, it's part of the healing process. And I thank you all for being on this journey with me.
Of course. You are surrounded by love and support, and I'm sure that's overwhelming at times. It can be overwhelming, but I know that it's been such a good thing too, because you guys have been so supportive in ways that I don't think people even understand. Just the constant checking on things, and just to have that response is huge when you've been silenced for so long. I think that makes a difference. It really does. I've been watching it. So okay, is there anything else you want to say?
I'm good. Just thank you, everyone. Sending positive, loving, healing energy to everybody, as always.
thank you for coming on tonight. I know it was your downtime, but you got away
I
from
don't
us. Oh, they would like a tattoo tour.
know. So I have like a sugar skull. I have Bride of Frankenstein she has a like
Hold
a
on.
voodoo doll of Frankenstein.
How do I make
My all-seeing eye, my butterfly. Yeah, just a few little things.
No. How do I don't know how to make her full screen. Oh, there, it's a closer of your arm. There.
So the Katrina,
That's closer to my face.
and then my Bride of Frankenstein. I love Frankenstein. I'm a fanatic for like the Universal monsters. So weird fact about me.
Random facts. That's okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of random facts about us that the internet would be shocked by.
Yes.
There's a lot.
Chat in our conversations, especially when Nanya was around. The rhymes, the nursery rhymes.
Oh my God. Yeah, please go check out Nanya's video, you guys. She did exceptional on that video, like exceptional. And I was really disappointed to see the drama brought into it. I was so disappointed in that. And yeah, it is what it is. But she did great. Like that video is exceptional. It's so well done. So please go watch that, like it, engage with it, everything. It's about the victims' voices. So with that, I think we will sign off for tonight. I appreciate once again, you guys, the chat. It's overwhelming to like look down and see all the love and support and stuff at times, I'm sure, for everybody, but you guys are incredible. Thank you so much for being here again, for sharing in these times with us. I know it's raw, it's real, it's uncut. It's just how it goes. Like, this is the reality people are living with. And this is why we got to do better by these victims. We got to do better by children victims, adult victims, sexual assault victims, missing children, murdered loved ones, all of it, suicide, everything. We have to start talking about it in the reality of what it is, because we need people to understand it's okay to ask for help and it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be struggling. That's unfortunately the truth. And where we are in this world, there's so much division as is. We need something to bring it back to humanity. So
Absolutely.
Good night, you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all. Thank you again, mods, for everything you do, and have a wonderful night.